Good Tuesday evening to you all out there, and welcome into another episode of the Barking Brown Show. We're all back together again. It feels like it's been forever. I'm your host, Jacob, Mr. Casey Kinnaman over there, Nick Carnstamble. I did that yesterday with Sam. I can't. We're brought to you as always by our friends over at SeatGeek. So if you want to go watch your East leading Cavs, like we got on the TV in the background, you want to go see them before the playoffs or once the playoffs get here, or spring training has started. We're almost out of the dog days of winter and into spring. This is insane. You want to go get some of those tickets? Go over to our friends at SeatGeek. Use our promo code Barking Browns, all one word, all capital letters. Get $20 off that first purchase. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Send this to 3 people you like and 2 people you hate. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I like that 2 people we hate business. That's how you really get them.
Me too.
I'm fantastic, man. Like 2 weekends without football, but the combine's here, so we're full steam ahead. This train don't stop. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we got some presser stuff to talk about. We got Jacob's top 50 prospects, man. It's going to be a good one, boys.
It's my first. This is interesting. I've done this draft stuff, and I've kind of tried to build on it for a couple of years now, but this is my first big board. This is my first top 50 ever. So.
Wow. Well, okay. I'll tell you a few things. I'll let Jacob down. I'll let the audience down. I have no Dr. Pepper Blackberry. It's nice to be back together, because all of a sudden we're heating up, and so I'm going to get that Blackberry next week. I didn't do anything today. I didn't go to work. I didn't go anywhere. So that's where I'm at. I hate food poisoning. But anyway, I just feel like every day there's something new. It's like the Browns are interested in Matt Stafford. Nick Chubb's gonna test the market. Myles Garrett could maybe be convinced to come back if they pay him. There's just been so much stuff since. I mean, it's been a week, and it's already heating up again, man. So I can't wait to get into it and talk to everybody. So here we are, Jacob's top 50.
I'm doing something in the background. Somebody filibuster.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. We got a lot of people in here. We got Drew. We got Connie. Hi, Connie. And Drew wants to know, are we meeting at the next combine? Well, that would certainly be nice.
Okay, that's turned on.
Full steam ahead, man. I'm actually mad that we're not there right now.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be. That was kind of the thing. I think 2 years ago or something, I was getting really ramped up with this stuff and trying to build the draft profile and the repertoire, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And I said 2 years, and then life kind of happened, and you don't have time off. And when you don't have time off, you just kind of. And I'm in class. I ended up being in class this week anyway. So, it's an even more non-negotiable time off for this week. So, it's just kind of life happened the way life happened. So, we are here. So we'll talk about a little bit, I guess, about Andrew Berry. You know what I want to say? I want to get on a soapbox for a second about press conferences. Can we stop acting like these mean a fucking thing? Can we stop getting outraged just for the sake of getting outraged over shit like this? Like I'm kind of sick of it, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Is like I saw some people get real fired up and be like, see, more proof that Andrew Berry is the worst GM ever because he says they're going to let Nick Chubb walk. That's not what he said. But the point of the matter was that he's not letting 2020 Nick Chubb walk. This is a Nick Chubb that didn't look like Nick Chubb, that broke his foot, and they're going to let him test the market. There's no, he's not gone yet. But the point is they're acting like 2020 Nick Chubb's up for a contract extension, and they're like, kick rocks. We want to be a terrible football team. Get the hell out of here. Oh. I saw somebody blame the damn Deshaun Watson trade.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it sucks for Nick. Okay. It sucks for Nick. But before he got hurt again, He wasn't back to himself yet. There were signs, there were encouraging signs. Then he breaks his foot. It's like you're looking at a running back who's in
What are they supposed to do? Give him $15 million?
It's a running back in his late 20s coming off 2 straight season-ending injuries. And there's no Brown I like more than Nick Chubb. His jersey is my favorite to wear. I will always wear it. But even I, have to face that reality of it's like you see how what happens to running backs. And I know we just had a year where we saw some veteran running backs, perform, but they weren't coming off season-ending injuries 2 straight years. That's a really tough situation for Nick, and it's a really tough situation for the Browns. I don't know
I say all that to say I think he's here next year.
Same.
I hope so.
But my point is, like, we talk about how Andrew Berry gives us nothing, how Kevin Stefanski gives us nothing, and then when they go up there, they talk. If you're in a bad mood and you're upset with the organization, everything they say is bad. It proves that they're bad. Everything it is. And I just saw people just like, he didn't say anything today. Nothing. He didn't say. I mean, the interesting thing, we'll talk about Travis Hunter in a minute when we get to the top 50, because he did kind of make a proclamation about the way they view Travis Hunter, and I thought that was a little bit insightful. So I shouldn't say nothing, because I did get a little nugget that I thought was very interesting. But it's like, we'll constantly like say, but when you want to pile on this thing is a dumpster fire, and listen, 2024 was a dumpster fire. There's no other way to negotiate that. But it's just like, oh, see, and then Tony Grossi's like, Myles Garrett doesn't believe you guys can win, and it's like,
right off the rip too, man.
I kind of thought that was a little funny. I did, like, for once, Grossi got me. I laughed. I thought that was hilarious. But it's like, you're just like, come on, man. Like, what do you expect him to say? Yep, nope, I don't know. Our plan sucks. And
here's the other thing, though. AB talks 5 times a year. That's it. You get combine, you get after the draft, you get preseason, and then when they get their bye week, and then the postseason wrap up, you see him 5 times a year. So if you're pissed at him already, like, you're going to, like, whenever he does get a talk, you're just going to see the negative in it.
Right.
But this, I find the most insightful Barry is the post-draft Barry.
Mm-hmm.
You will get more out of that after they draft players. You'll start
because he's not trying to keep anything in anymore. What he's doing.
That's when you really get something. Like, this is all like softballs, man. Like, and him and Steph, that they've both gotten really good at one thing. They open their pressers up and cut you off at the knees by answering the question that you want to ask first.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to address the Myles stuff before you ask a question. And Stefanski addressed the play calling before anyone asked a question. You know what I mean? So they're getting a good feel for the beat and what they're going to harp on. So they kind of try to jump on that ahead of time. But you're not going to stop the Grossies of the world or Mary Kay or, they're not getting out of all that. But, there's no winning this press conference. The only time you can win a press conference is when you're hired. After that, you're just treading water. And that's always.
Or you make a big trade that people like at the time. Like, because, like, you remember the OBJ press conference, right? Like, everybody loved that press conference because it was a superstar trade. Yeah.
They're just in a real tough situation right now because negativity surrounding the Browns is as high as I think I've ever seen it. Like, a friend of ours who's been on the show is getting attacked left and right because he dare be in a committee that would maybe say some good things about the Browns. And it's like, people are so incensed that someone might even say something good about the Browns right now that they're attacking them. And it's like, you see it. It just, no matter what Andrew Berry says, no matter what Kevin Stefanski says, no matter what any of them say, until they win football games, this is just going to be the state of things. And so it's tough. And so I'm hoping that the draft can really improve it because right now, man, it's just, I don't care what they say. There's going to be people that detract from it. And that's just what I've come to understand this offseason to be. And so I think that's why these shows like this are so important, because as we start to get into all these prospects and these avenues to improve the team, that's the only way. That's the only way this is going to change.
Yeah, Daryl's been on one today.
Yeah.
Well, really, the last week is.
The mute button is a beautiful thing.
I honestly didn't even. Somebody sent it to me. I wouldn't have even seen it. Like, I wouldn't have even seen it. But somebody was like, "Did you see this one?" And I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, I don't know, man.
But I don't even buy it. Like, who's carrying water right now?
Right.
Right now, nobody is. Everyone's got their knives out.
No, not for the most part. I think there's some optimistic people. I'm optimistic for a bunch of reasons because I think like you get competent quarterback play, and I think this team's competitive. Like I am not going to be like, oh, competent quarterback play in their Super Bowl, but competent quarterback play in their 2023 again.
Well, the further we get away from the train wreck of 24, like I see it for what it was. It was a down year. You had a down year.
Yeah.
Like, and it all went to shit. And
it was just
you could point to the quarterback play, and you could point to the injuries, and it all piled up, and it was a whole bunch of bad. But when you take a step back, it's the same roster from the year before. It's little tweaks here or there. But if you just retool a few things and get competent quarterback play, you're going to be closer to that 23 win total than you were the 24.
And it's not just competent quarterback play; it's a competent offensive scheme.
Boom.
Like, because it's not because people are going to say, well, the quarterback changed and it still was issues. And it's like, well, because the offense was still garbage. The offensive scheme and what they were trying to accomplish, I don't know what it was. and I've watched a lot of the 20. Cause sometimes I'll go back and watch some of the. I don't even. There's so many games that like really Ty. That's what we're doing.
He's just great. He's it's unbelievable. I don't know. Ty is most likely going to win Sixth Man of the Year over team.
Did we lose him?
Oh, he really looks like he meant it too.
He really meant it. Whatever it was he was saying, he meant. He really meant it. The Cavs are beating the Magic by more than the amount the Magic have scored. Like, what's really, really messed up in this situation is Nick is controlling this stream. So as we go through the rest of the stream, we don't have control over it.
I'm sorry. My whole internet just took a dump.
Came back quick though. Resilient. It's a gamer.
I try. Got to be on the game. But all I was going to say is Ty Jerome's most likely going to win Sixth Man of the Year over fellow teammate DeAndre Hunter. That is how deep the Cavs are right now. It's kind of insane what they're doing.
45-22.
Yes.
They're beating Orlando by more than what Orlando has scored.
I just wanted to, because I know we're going to get the top 50, but I wanted to bring something else up too. Not only, I also expect the offensive scheme to be better, but I think something that's important is you got to get the dead weight off your roster. And when I say dead weight, I mean, I went down to New Orleans and watched a dude jog after Marquez Valdez-Scantling and give about as little effort as I don't know how he could have given less effort. And I like seeing Juan get moved off of this team so early because it's like that type of stuff, especially from a dude that you signed to a pretty reasonable contract to come in here and be your Super Bowl experience guy. Him setting that example is just bad for everybody. And I'm glad they made the move so early and they can just move past that stuff because you can't. That's the one thing we talked about this all last year is like if effort issues start, that's when, you really see things crumble. And so I'm glad to see them at least nip that in the bud because he was by far the biggest offender last year, in my opinion.
Jackson with a banger in the chat.
Yeah, still mourning the release of the GOAT, Charlie Hewlett.
Yeah. And for those in the know, do you know that they didn't invite a single long snapper to the combine?
Really?
That's still surprising to me because, like,
me too. Those are needed people, man.
What are you losing by having them come out there and just like get 20 minutes to show what you know what I mean? Like they don't need a whole day or anything stupid. They just need a little bit. It's like, what are you going to lose? Like, yeah, that is unfortunate for Charlie. That just makes me think that the injury there, where they're just kind of concerned, like where he's going to go from there. So they're like, and they had him. He was like the highest paid long snapper like ever.
He'd been there since 2015, right?
Yeah, he'd been there. Yeah, like 10 years, I think 10 years. Because the only other person that's now longer tenured is Joel.
Yep.
So yeah, that one's tough. But no, like I'm just like I'm so ready for free agency to get here so that we can stop being mad at dead season, because we do this every year. 152 games for Charlie Hudo. Wow, that's a lot of football games. 152.
I wonder if that's the record for a long snapper. It feels like it would be.
That's got to be. So, it feels like it has to be. But my thing is, we love to be either over the moon or furious when nothing can happen. Like people are getting mad because they'll be like, oh, like somebody will be like 2014 for Charlie Hewitt, Drew says. They say it'll come out that like somebody thinks the Browns are taking Shedeur or whatever. I'm just saying, like one day it'll be like they're taking Shedeur or they're taking Abdul Carter or they're taking Mason, whatever it is. And people are going to get furious that day. And they're like, this organization is not a serious organization. And like, this is a rumor. Yeah. They have not done that action item yet. They themselves have not even said they're going to do that action item yet. And there's just the pitchforks are out there. And that's what I can't take, is I'm losing my mind over here. And I'm like, just shut up. It's like, because like everybody took what Adam Schefter said today to be like, yeah, the Browns are Adam Schefter talking on Pat McAfee's like, I feel like, he's like, the Browns are going to take a quarterback too. Everybody wanted to run with it. He said, I guess. He literally made it clear that there was not inside information. It was just a feeling he had. And everybody's like, yep, the Browns take a quarterback. And I'm like, did you listen? Like, just so we know, and maybe I'll drop it, I have a little bit of inside news on their current big board that I have not posted anywhere.
Interesting. Okay.
And the number one is not a quarterback.
That doesn't surprise me.
Number two is. But anyway, but it's not the one you think it is.
Well, in that case, then
can we stop being mad about stupid shit like that? Can we stop?
It's not going to stop until they have somebody to give them new hope. That's what they need. They need a player, a lightning rod selection, whoever it may be, to just give them hope, because you're looking at all the pillars of your team, right? Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, supposed to be Deshaun Watson, obviously not. And you're every one of those pillars is just getting knocked out. JOK still unsure. Denzel Ward kind of was like, maybe I'd have to leave too. Then he retracted it. It's like everybody you said, basically besides David Njoku and I guess Grant Delpit, who like you might reasonably own their jersey, might be moving on. And that is, I think that's the thing that like people are, because we really thought that we entered this new era where it's like, we have so many jerseys we can buy. There's so many options here. We've got all this longevity and long-term players and literally in 365 days, right? Since we were coming off last year of making the playoffs and feeling really good, everything is flipped on its head. And I think that's why people are having such a hard time with it, because things move slow, but so fast in the NFL simultaneously. And
that's true.
The Browns are just on this teetering point where it's like, do you try to keep this thing together or are you going to rebuild? And I think until people get an answer, they're just going to be angry.
Oh, they're not rebuilding. They are not rebuilding. These guys did not get retained for another year to rebuild.
No.
These guys are trying to win.
They don't have a choice. There's absolutely no way. There's absolutely no way they were given a big enough leash for that.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you, but what if Myles plays hardball with them?
See, then he sits.
Then he sits his ass down.
He's got 2 years on a contract. Like there's a reality. Just because he says it doesn't mean shit.
He can say whatever the fuck he wants, but guess
No.
what? He can just give up all of his money and sit his ass at home then.
No, I understand that part of it, but I'm saying this dude is your most important player, and if you've got a rift between him, your chances of winning games are I don't care if you're saying you're not rebuilding. If Miles is not on that field, you are rebuilding. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion. You need him. You need him more than you need any other player that's not a quarterback on that field right now. It's just because the Browns, to me, I've just been depleted. I don't know. Maybe I can talk myself back into it. We'll see where things go. But I just think Miles is such a difference maker. Mm-hmm. Without him, it's. I mean, I don't know. That's my biggest worry now is how this whole thing goes and if he plays hardball with them.
I think he might hold out. I think cooler heads will prevail and he'll sign an extension. I think that's the most likely thing that will happen here. But
okay.
it might get ugly first. It might get ugly first. That's a possibility.
I'm just like, I just want something. I want us to not be mad until there's something to actually be mad about, I guess is what I'm saying.
I agree. I've moved off the anger.
Is that too much? Is that too much? Is that too much to ask is what I want to know. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Miles would sit. I think they would. I think they'll figure it out. But I get the sentiment. Sentiment.
But I also have zero problem with our very best player holding the standard high. He wants them to make moves. He wants them to, yes, by all means. Me too, Miles. Me too. But it's just going. They've already offered them the extension. They didn't take it, so we'll see. You'll see how long it plays out.
Yeah.
Hopefully, whatever happens with the draft, Miles likes, and they can sign him to a lucrative extension, make him the highest paid player he deserves to be. Everybody can be happy because I will say on the other side of this coin, that situation with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens got kind of weird for a little while.
You see how that was, and it was tense. It was very tense. Yeah. But it's over, and no one's bringing it up there.
Right.
Like that. Right. That's exactly what's going to happen here.
It could blow over.
Articles I was writing for Browns Wire, and we would do around the AFC North stuff because during the off season it can be a little bit. Yeah, I think so too, Jack. It can get a little bare, So sometimes you're writing. I was writing things about Lamar Jackson when they would come up. I can't tell you how many times I literally wrote, like, he's done. Like, he's not going back there.
Yeah, because
everything pointed to he was not.
Right. You're right. And they kept him, and they were a damn good team all year. And Lamar seems just fine.
I hope Jack's right. I hope Jackson's right. I just feel like they're going to have to make a move first to appease him.
I think they're making a trade.
They might.
I think
that's what we've always seen, right? That's what AB's. That is his wheelhouse, is the trade market.
Like, I think there's a trade. I don't know what it looks like. If it's a quarterback, it's probably going to be a wide receiver because they just happen to do a wide receiver trade every freaking year, and it's some kind of significance. But I think they make a trade. What's tampering? Is it the 12th?
You're allowed to negotiate with your own people 24 hours prior.
Well, but tampering is the 10th. March 10th.
The legal tampering period.
Yeah. That's why I was just trying to remember what the date was. Yeah, it's the 10th, and then 4 p.m. on the 12th is your.
They just need to make a couple big splash, not big splash as far as like names, but solidifying your team. They need to show him they're as serious and committed to winning as he is. That's it.
And I think you go out there, if you go out swinging, you do it. He's re-signed by the draft, and then you're just like, ultimately, I think that's what it happens.
What?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you what, MC. Don't you come in these comments and start with that bullshit, because you were very well informed.
What is a move you could see that would like shift the perception or just some of the mentality around the team? Like a free agency type move that the Browns sign this guy and you say, yep, there it is. Now we're feeling good.
It's a Jerry Jeudy caliber player. And I don't mean Jerry Jeudy after he had a 1,200-yard season. I mean, that move was considered a good move, a significant move. Some people wanted to debate it.
There's a lot of people mocking the Browns.
I know you have an alt. Jaw is a known
He's out of his damn mind.
He's trying to
out of his damn mind.
He's trying to mess with us in the comments. I see it, but
there were a lot of people mocking the Browns for that extension they gave Jeudy, and the Deshaun stuff overshadowed it all. But Andrew Berry deserves a pat on the back for that one. Absolute.
I think it's something like that. It's something like, it could be Sam Darnold. I think people are still. Everybody wants to punt on that and think that they have no shot. Then they're not going to go at Sam Darnold. I'm not convinced that they're not. I know there's not really any rumblings from insiders on it, but it could be something like Sam Darnold. It could be.
I think the domino's Matt Stafford. I think what Stafford does determines a lot.
Yeah.
We'll see if they're able to move off him. You can see Darnold end up on the Rams.
Is there something I'm missing about do the Rams just not want to pay Stafford? Is that because
Stafford wants paid?
Okay, Stafford wants paid. Do the Rams
not? I heard today. Yeah, that's what I heard today, that he wants paid.
Well, because
I heard like 50. Did you? I think it was 50 or 51 is what I heard today.
And here's the thing, though. If you're the Rams, I view the Rams as in a Super Bowl window right now.
Agreed.
The way their defense came along so fast, and they're all young, and you're not really paying them yet. You know what I mean? You're cutting Cooper Kupp, or you're trading, or whatever you're doing. You're freeing up that money, and you could just shift that over to Stafford. I would appease the man and try to give another a year or two run with Stafford.
That's the thing I don't get. I look at the playoffs and I'm like, the closest game the Eagles played in the playoffs was against the Rams. Like Matt Stafford had them right there. They did have that game, and I just look at it and I'm saying, the Rams are hitting on all these late picks and building this roster that's exciting, and clearly they know what they're doing over there. Like, I would do everything I could if I was the Rams to keep Stafford and keep that window open. Unless you're just like, maybe they think Darnold can be their Goff, but I just think Stafford's so much better. So I don't get it. I mean, I would take Matt Stafford in a heartbeat, right? But I don't get it.
To answer your question, a move that would appease him, it is a move that makes the offense more dynamic in some way. Maybe that's a big swing at offensive line. Because I guess it doesn't give you a dynamic playmaker, but I think he's probably content with what that defense looks like, and they're going to add to that defense. And we're going to get into my top 50 here in a second, talk about a lot of talent that they can add on defense. But I think he wants to see that they're going to score more points. Maybe they go out there and they take a big swing and they get one of the there's like 2 or 3 centers that are available that are pretty good centers. Maybe they go out and get a really good center, and you're like, ooh, I could see that. Or they sign one of these running backs. It's not a very good group. There's not much out there. There's no Saquon or anything crazy like that. Or maybe they make a trade. Maybe they do something crazy and they get Garrett Wilson. I don't know, but I think it's something on offense that you can see directly creating more points, rather it's a quarterback, a wide receiver, an offensive line, whatever it is. It's something that we're going to sit around and have it's something that media members and content creators want to have a show just to talk about that offensive move. That's kind of what I think it is. And maybe I'm a little crazy, but that's what I think.
Speaking of you being crazy, let's talk about your prospects.
Here,
let's tear this list apart.
Bring this baby
Chat,
up.
I need you to be active.
All right. That's our top 50 big board here. Let's get over here, and that's
Jacob's Nifty 50.
Jacob's Nifty 50.
Here's a breakdown by position for you guys that are curious here. Okay, so the breakdown by position. I just pulled it up on the OBR just because it was just published yesterday. So you had 2 quarterbacks.
Baby. Go to the OBR.
Boom.
Get you a subscription.
Cross promotion, baby.
All right. Quarterback. I got 2. There's that second tier doesn't come in until well into the 50s. 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 5 offensive tackles. It's a little bit debatable because some of these offensive tackles, some people may call guards.
That was going to be my question.
Like 1 or 2 of them. Like Will Campbell is counted here in this 5.
Okay.
But some people think I have Kelvin Banks up here and Wyatt Milam up here in offensive tackle, both of which some people consider guard, might need to move to guards. So that's where it's a little bit funky. So really, you should say I have 10 offensive linemen if we're trying to be fair. So I got 6 wide receivers. Here's where it's loaded: 6 D tackles and 7 edge.
Yeah.
13 defensive linemen, 3 safeties, 3 tight ends, 6 corners, and 3 linebackers. And that is that's it. That is that. So all right, here we go. Let's go down through. Get out of there. Get out of here. Get out of here. Go down through top 10 here. Travis Hunter still remains the number 1 player. God damn it. I keep doing that, don't I? Travis Hunter still remains the number 1 player on my board. That is something that Andrew Berry spoke about today, calling Travis Hunter a wide receiver first. I have him as wide receiver 1. I have him as corner 2 in this class overall on my big board. So Travis Hunter remains my number 1 player on my board. Abdul Carter, the pass rusher from Penn State's number 2. Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan. There's been a lot of buzz about NFL teams thinking Ted McMillan is not a top 10 player.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a lot of Ted McMillan tape. He's the 4th best player on my board right now. I get it because of some of the separation things, but I just don't. I think that you watch that tape and that is a difference-making number 1 wide receiver. So I have him number 4. Ashton Genty, the running back from Boise. I could easily flip those 2, but I have him at number 5. Will Campbell. I think we're getting prospect fatigue, and we're also forgetting who he was before the injury in 2023. He was he was even better in 2022 as a freshman. But Will Campbell, the corner from Michigan at number 6. Will Campbell, I think, is the best offensive lineman in this class. I think he's a guard. I list him as an offensive lineman because I've heard a lot of buzz about teams thinking he's a tackle. If he's a tackle, he's a candidate at number 2 if you think he's a tackle, in my mind. If you think he's a guard, the question is, well, how high do you take a guard? Either way, I think he's the 7th best player in this draft. 8th is the other defensive tackle from Michigan, Kenneth Grant, because I think he's a freak. Our first quarterback comes in at 9. I got Cam Ward 9 on the board, and Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State, rounds out the top 10.
Okay, let's go ahead and dig into this. Okay, so we need to talk about what AB said about Travis Hunter, and it's that they view him as a wide receiver first because he believes his special talent is his ball skills, and you get to utilize that literally 100 more times as a receiver than you ever would a cornerback in a single season, which that's sound logic by itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you do envision him having a dual role, it is harder to have him as a sub package on defense than it would be to have him be a full-time defender with a sub package on offense.
I agree.
You know what I mean? So I think that kind of gives you a view to what they see, which would lead me to believe that he's not the guy too.
So what I heard from a source in Indy, what I heard earlier today, and I didn't post it because I'll tell you offline why I didn't post it. But I have heard it's neck and neck. But I've heard their big board is Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders.
Wow.
That is what I've been told in that order.
That's encouraging.
That's what the whispers at Indianapolis are telling me.
So if those whispers are true, they feel very different about Shedeur than you do.
Or that they feel that different about their void at quarterback.
True.
Just because I don't think I think what's going to be really interesting is we'll get to Shedeur later in this conversation, but I just don't think the drop off on that second tier of quarterback is that different. I have Cam as a top 10 player in this class. I don't have Shedeur in the top 20.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about Mason Graham.
Okay.
I feel like the combine is not his launching pad.
People are going to want him move him down the board.
They're going to. Well, he doesn't have the measurables. This portion of the evaluation is going to be. It's going to be speed. It's going to be explosivity. It's not going to be based on tape, which his tape is phenomenal.
Yes.
It's going to be based on measurables, which he just doesn't have. He just doesn't have that kind of length that you've seen classically. But neither did Aaron Donald. Like when you break down Aaron Donald, it was the tape, man. That's what leads you to him being what he is. And I'm not saying Mason Graham's Aaron Donald, but I'm saying I believe he's a top 5 player. But I think after the combine, you could see him fall back closer to 10.
I think so, but I remain steadfast that he's the safest player in this draft.
I think he has the quickest path to top 5 at his position. I think he of all these guys, if you're like in 3 years, X will be an all-pro, I would say Mason Graham.
Yeah, I think like at worst, he's just a really elite run defender, and that's why I think he's such a safe pick.
Yeah,
wouldn't hate that.
And Kenneth Grant though, that's a freak.
Well, what's crazy if you see those guys next to each other and you said, "Hey, one of these guys is the top tackle in the class," you wouldn't pick Mason Graham. You would pick the 340-pound mutant, Kenneth Grant.
Right. And Wolverines had a hell of a line, huh?
Yeah, and they're like, let's just keep. In Ohio State was like, let's keep running running the ball right up the middle, right at him. That was fun.
All right, Jacob, me put your analyst hat on here. So if you had to pick one of these players in this top 10 to fall outside of the top 20, who would you think it is and why?
I think it's Will Johnson for a lot of the issues and concerns that people have with Will Johnson at corner. His top speed is a concern. And so he missed a lot of the year. They're going to know his medical that we're not going to know. So they're going to know if they're comfortable with his medical. So a team will know that when they make the pick. So they're not going to be like guesswork patching it together like we are. But you haven't really seen Will Johnson much in months. And the first things you're going to see him is at the combine. And I think he'll test okay, but he's not going to run. He's not going to go out there and run like a 4.2, a low 4.3. And so people are going to say, well, my biggest question is his long speed. And the last time I saw him was at the combine and I don't know what and so there's a lot of concerns about like some of the size, he's big enough, but like, does he have the athleticism and the twitch and the burst? And like his tape is really, really good, but that was like 2 years ago that we saw it wasn't this year. So there's just like these questions. I think Will Johnson falls. I've heard a lot of people say he falls, and I think it's overthink because I think his tape is good. I mean, this year's tape, there were some issues with it, sure, but like when you go watch that national championship defense and you watch what Will Johnson did on that defense, like it was downright nasty. So like he's a really talented player, but other players are going to make more recent impressions, and I think that may cause some overthink, and there's some risk with Will Johnson. And if you're like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head of a good example, but if you're looking at oh my God, I'm gonna have to pull the list up here real quick, just because it drives me crazy because I don't want to put it up.
While you do that, let me ask you a question. If you were to fit a defense for Will Johnson, though, what would you think he'd be better in a man scheme or a heavy zone scheme?
I mean, he probably ends up being zone scheme because of that straight line speed. I have concerns with straight line speed, just being in man coverage. Like Jahdae Barron was the name I was going to bring it up. Like Jahdae Barron, like you've seen him be an elite slot defender and then slide to the outside and be really, really good. You're like, oh, he's done both of those. Maybe I'll take him over Will Johnson, but I think Will Johnson's still the overall better player. But you're going to be like recency bias plus the flexibility and things like that. You may want to lean with that, and that may cause him to fall out of the top 20. But yeah, I think it's more zone corner, just solely. He can play that press physical because he is a bigger, longer corner. But like, again, straight line speed. We saw a lot of man coverage, and Martin Emerson get exposed by that this year.
Yeah.
Jacob, in the scenario that the Browns trade down, I see you have Ted McMillan at 4 and obviously Travis Hunter at 1. But I know like Andrew Berry's comments were interesting today because, I've seen most people talk about Travis Hunter as a corner, first, wide receiver, second. It seemed like Andrew Berry kind of flipped that on its head. But so if they trade down,
said that he was a better wide receiver than corner months ago. But okay,
interesting. Okay. So in the situation that you're looking for a wide receiver, I'm just curious how you look at Travis Hunter and compare him to Ted McMillan.
It's not close. Like Travis Hunter is the most dynamic player with the ball in his hands in this class, I think, period. Definitely at wide receiver, but he may be he's more dynamic. I mean, you got issues at 180 pounds and, but here's the thing. He's raw at both positions because he's been splitting time. Can you imagine what he could do if he dedicated everything to one side of the football? It goes both ways. It goes both ways, corner or wide receiver. Okay. I just think that I want to find a way to put the ball in Travis Hunter's hands on offense because he can go the distance. Don't get me wrong, Tech can do a lot of amazing things. He's my 4th graded player, but I think Travis Hunter is above in a way the best pass catcher in this class. All right. Next 10.
Next 10.
Right there. All right. My first off, you son of a bitch, you did it again. First offensive tackle off the official offensive tackle because I think Will Campbell's a guard. So Kelvin Banks Jr., left tackle out of Texas at 11. Mike Green, the pass rusher out of Marshall at 12. Luther Burden, the 3rd wide receiver. Luther Burden III is the 3rd wide receiver on the board out of Missouri. Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia. Jalen Walker, the linebacker from Georgia. 16, I think I'm very high on Omarion Hampton, the running back from North Carolina. Released a scouting report on him, a draft profile over at theobr.com today. James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher from Tennessee at 17. Colson Loveland, the tight end from Michigan at 18. Josh Connerly Jr., my number 2 offensive tackle at 19. And Tyler Booker, the offensive guard out of Alabama, rounds out the top 20.
We've got a nice crop of offensive linemen in the second the 10 to 20 range here, which is interesting to me because I know we haven't talked about them as much with the Browns being at 2, but it is interesting that if something got crazy, and you were looking to draft another offensive tackle, there could be some options a little later.
Yeah, because you get this group here and then it drops off. So it's going to be interesting trying to navigate that if I'm Browns.
Let's prognosticate here. Mm-hmm. So out of this second group here, who do you think could blow up the combine and make a charge for this top 10?
It's probably James Pierce. It's probably James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher from Tennessee. And part of that is because we're starting to hear some really big Drew said, so you guys get the ads on the OBR too. I feel equal. Yeah, we do. We get everything that you guys get. I just get a little fancy little, we get a little box next to our name that says staff. That's really all we get. We see all the ads. What's funny is if you're watching my screen, you have seen me in a couple of the video clips for the OBR pop up on the ads on that screen while I was talking. I've been in a couple of those clips. I just thought that was really funny. I think it's James Pierce Jr. because when I'm looking at this stuff, I'm looking at athletes. Jalen Walker's a really good athlete, so he may have a chance to do it. But
for me, he'd be my guess.
The thing about him is that he's a tweener. Where are you going to put him? I list him as a linebacker. I think he's better as a pass rusher, but they never really did that with him. They did it at times, and you would have thought they would have given him a little bit more run there. So I'm just looking at this list and I'm trying to figure out who's the best athlete. It could be Jalen Walker. You make a great point. he's up there. I think Josh Connerly's a really good athlete, so I think he's got an opportunity to move up. But the thing about James Pierce Jr. is he's going to come in undersized. He's going to probably have a little bit of extra weight on him for the combine because he's going to eat a bunch of them peanut butter sandwiches, as we talk about every year. But Mike Green, these character concerns keep coming up. Yeah. He may fall. And because he may fall with all this character stuff that we're hearing about why he got dismissed from Virginia, I think that combination could catapult James Pierce because a lot of people are wanting to put Mike Green in the top 10, and he's borderline top 10 for me. And so because of that reason, I think he could test really well, and one of the other guys could fall, and I think that might be the reason I would put him up there. But Jalen Walker, he's going to look good this week. He's going to look really good this week.
But you're 100% correct. Most of his is based on just forecasting what he could be, not what he was in college, because it'll be a different role in the league. But his athletic pedigree would lead you to believe that he would be better as a pass rusher, more valued. So if he tests crazy, he could be a name we see move up. Now it's time to give you your props. I think where you have Luther Burden right now is higher than consensus, but I think that's where he will be after the combine because I think he will test explosive.
Yeah, and he didn't have 700 receiving yards this year, right? Like, so everybody's like, they want to poo-poo on him and they want to throw him all the way down the board and things like that. But like, yeah, like you said, he's explosive. Like, he's a good football player.
He's also someone, my favorite drill of the combine is the gauntlet. Mm-hmm. I love watching the gauntlet. I love watching how smooth you can be in your fluidity of catching the football and keeping it moving. And I think he's someone that he'll blow up that drill, and he'll be moving lightning quick as he does it. That'll be something I'm looking forward to.
It'll remind you of what he is as a football player when he has competent quarterback play, because that's his issue, man. Like, and Brady Cook had a rough year, but Brady Cook wasn't healthy either, and it's just Luther Burden may end up being a slot-only wide receiver in the NFL, but like, if that is the case, he's going to be very good.
The last thing about this 10 is I'll say is I think Tyler Booker is similar to Mason Graham. He's just in a position that's not very valued. Right. I think he'll be an excellent guard at the next level. But because he's a guard and it's not sexy, no one's going – I think this is about where he'll be throughout the whole process. He'll be someone who's available towards the end of the first round. But I think you draft him and you have an 8-year starter.
And he's not going to test like out the books. No. Like, he'll test fine because he moves fine, but he's more of a power run.
Yeah, he wants you in a phone booth.
Yeah. He will win in a phone booth. Sometimes he can do some things in space, but like, you know, he's a guard. He's a guard through and through. So like with Will Campbell, you could be like, well, maybe he's a tackle. Like, you're not doing that with Tyler Booker.
Okay, here's a question for another forecast question for you. Do you think there'll be 2 running backs taken before 2 tight ends?
No. I think ultimately Colston Loveland will go pretty high, and I think it should be based on my rankings, as you can see here, but I think the running backs are going to get pushed down because there's just so many of them. I just think it's such a good class. Like, I have Omarion Hampton at 16, but I just did a mock where the Browns took him at 33, and I could feasibly see that happening because I could see teams being like, I'm not going to take Omarion Hampton at 22 overall because at 40 or, you know, at like 52 overall or whenever my next pick is, I could take Dylan Sampson or Travion Henderson. And I don't think that drop-off is that big, whereas if I don't take Malachi Starks here, the safety drop-off is bigger, or whatever the position is. And they may say, like I just said, like the offensive tackle line, it like kind of drops off for me. That group kind of drops off. And you may be like, I'm taking Josh Connerly here because I don't think that I don't think like the drop off from Josh Connerly to like tackle 6 or 7 when you get to like Ontario Ursery and some guys like that, like the drop off is going to be bigger than it is from Hampton to Henderson. So I think that could cause that.
I also think it also kind of depends on how early Genty goes.
Right.
I think if someone swings on Genty early in that top 10, 8, 6, which is crazy. But if there was a running back to do this on, he's the guy.
Yeah.
And I think that could cause the urgency to get the next best guy to ramp up, as opposed to if Genty's still chilling at 13 to 17, and I think that people would relax more.
Yep. I'm with you. Because I think that's what happened with Jahmyr Gibbs too. Like in that trade, like Bijan did go so high that they were like, we got
to swing now.
All right. So we're going down to 30 here. 21 is Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas. Josh Simmons, 22, the offensive tackle from Ohio State. I'm much higher than I think everybody else is on Tyleik Williams, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. I got him at 23. Shedeur Sanders, my second and last quarterback in the top 50 at 24. 25 is Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher from Texas A&M. I understand the traits, but he has 4.5 career sacks. I'm not putting him in the top 10. Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss at 26. Caleb Johnson, another running back there from Iowa at 27. Armand Membu, the offensive tackle from Missouri at 28. 29 is Trey Amos, the corner from Ole Miss. And Demetrius Knight Jr., the linebacker from South Carolina, rounds out the top 30.
Okay. So I'm going to start with Membu.
Yes.
I think he's the best zone blocking tackle in this draft. Zone scheme tackle.
I think that's probably fair.
It just depends on like when we talk about players like Simmons, it's his medicals, right? So
yes.
Someone said this week that it was a patellar tendon tear.
Right, I did. I had already made this list, by the way, before I heard that.
But even then, if someone's comfortable with that, that's going to push him up the board and push someone like Membu a little further down. And that's a name that if he was available at 33, I don't think twice.
No, because I think it's a top 20. I'd have him higher if he was healthy.
So
if he had continued to do what he was doing, I should say, because he was playing the best. He had took a massive step forward at the start of this year. So if he's at 33 and he's a guy that was playing, I think if Josh Simmons played the way he had played before he got hurt, he was going to be tackle 1.
Yeah.
And I think
it was also such a small sample size, you could see where teams would have doubt.
Right.
You could see where like that could cause hesitation, like 6 games, I believe. Okay.
Yes.
So you're really high on Tyleik. I see Tyleik as an elite run defender.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that he offers enough as a pass rusher to hold him in the first round? Or do you think he might be someone that could fall out?
He probably ends up falling out. I say he probably ends up falling out because teams are going to want more pass rush upside or more pass rush juice. But I think he has
like Walter Nolan, a gap shooting phenom, as opposed to someone you can't run the ball at Tyleik though.
No.
When I look at the bottom of the board, like the bottom of the first round, it wouldn't shock me if Kansas City went that direction.
Yeah.
I can see that as a landing. They don't really have a lot of tackles under contract.
They have one, I think.
They need some stoutness up front. Go ahead and tell me about Demetrius Knight. I have not gotten into his film. I've heard some superlatives, but I haven't seen anything from him.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick. There's like some of these guys that I've talked about a million times that I can just like rattle it off. But there's also a few of these guys where I've got to actually pull up my profile on them and be like, hold on a second, let me get my scouting notes.
He's your linebacker 1, except for Walker, which you have listed as linebacker, but I think we both agree that.
Yeah. So 6th-year senior.
Pass rusher.
Off the rip, 6th-year senior. So you're talking about a guy that's played a ton of football. Really good length, size overall. I'm really interested to see what all the measurables come out with him. He is going to hit you hard. He is a throwback, hit you hard, hit you in the mouth. I was reading Kyle Krabs. I was reading Kyle Krabs talk about him on the 33rd team, and what they're doing at the 33rd team's pissed me off. So we're not going to talk about that. But he said something about he plays with the power to prevent yards after contact. Like when he hits you, he's going to put you down. Like he's not going to hit you and let you get those 2-3 extra yards, that sort of thing. Like
he plays over.
Yeah, it's done. Does a really good job to stack and shed the blocks when they're coming in. He's really going to be, his run defense is really kind of his calling card, but he just has just such natural instincts. Like the instincts are JOK-esque. Like his feel for what's happening in front of him, what's going on, it's as good as you're going to get in a draft class. And that's why I snuck him into that kind of first round range right there. Like, not a crazy athlete. He's not a freaky athlete. He's a good mover. He's not a crazy athlete. I don't love him sometimes in man coverage. If you somehow sneak out one of those like really high, one of those wide receivers and a tight end body, I don't love that.
Yeah.
But like zone coverage where he has a limited responsibility, he's not trying to run with guys laterally. I think he's fine in that, and he does it really good. He's kind of a rally around this guy kind of leader in the middle of the defense. That's a sure tackler that's going to shut down a run game. And if you're trying to fling it out of the backfield to a running back, him in the open field, I like Demetrius Knight's chance.
I got two more questions inside of this section here. I was lucky enough this week to sit in on Daniel Jeremiah's pre-combine Q&A, and I asked him about wide zone running backs in this draft. And the first one he came up with, and it's the first one that comes up in my mind, is Caleb Johnson. Yeah. So when you look at Caleb Johnson, what do you see as his ceiling?
I don't think he's got the speed, and I hate doing this, but like, man, there's some Nick Chubb there, buddy. There's some Nick Chubb, like that kind of. I think Nick Chubb's top speed is still better than Caleb Johnson's. Yeah. I'm very interested to see because Nick's a true rare breed. Just kind of where he's got that blend of everything, but Caleb Johnson. He may not have like elite top speed, but his burst is really great. He's very explosive. He's just so smart and patient. He's just so patient. Like if there's going to be, you see it with Nick Chubb a lot. Go watch some of the 2020 stuff, like some of those run schemes that they were running in 2020 and 2021, and watch how like Nick Chubb hesitate. I don't know is the right word, but Nick Chubb sits, he's moving, but he's watching and he's predicting, and he said, this guy's going to go here and this guy's going to go there. So I'm going to go here or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he also sees the cutback lane, I think, really well as well. Like he's just patient and he's smart. Sometimes a little bit too patient. Sometimes I'm like, just go, just freaking go. But you get that in college because you can get away with some of those things a little bit more than they can get away with them at the next level. But I just think he's so smart and so patient, and he sees. If there is a lane, he's going to find it, and he's going to get to his top speed pretty quickly. But do not think you're going to lower your shoulder on him, because he will run you the hell over. He will run you the hell. Like if you took Nick Chubb and you made Nick Chubb took away a little bit of his top speed and added more power, I think that's Caleb Johnson. I think that's Caleb Johnson at his best. I'm not predicting that, but you said ceiling, that's where it is. A slightly more powerful, a little less fast Nick Chubb, I think, is what he can become in the Stefanski scheme, specifically if he was in that kind of scheme, that kind of if he goes to Kyle Shanahan, or Kevin Stefanski or something of that nature, you got a guy that'll compete for rushing titles.
This is the thing I like most about Caleb's coming into the league, about getting to his ceiling faster. And I'm going to put this gently. Iowa's offense was such dog shit. He's seen nothing but 8-man boxes.
True.
So all the success you saw Caleb Johnson have in college was, again, they knew he was running the ball. And he was still able to do that. So I think that's.
Well, and you look like it took Ohio State's defense to stop him.
Yes.
That was the only one.
I can't emphasize again, Iowa's offense is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, we say the same things. The same things we say about Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end from Bowling Green. We say he was Bowling Green's entire offense. Everybody knew that, and they couldn't stop him. Yeah, that was Caleb Johnson too.
All right. One more question. We'll move on. I know we got to keep it moving here.
Yeah, it's whatever.
So Shedeur 24.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you use positional value to help you rank?
So originally, I didn't think this year I was going to make a big board, just because I really struggle with positional value when it comes to ranking them. Like, it's easy for me to rank running backs, like be like running back 1, running back 2, running back 3. Like, in the position, it's easy because I think this guy's better than this guy, who's better than this guy, that kind of thing. I think that's easy. But then when you take all of that, I have my positional rankings in an Excel spreadsheet, right? And then you throw all that shit together. I used it about 10%, 20%. I would say 20% was positional value. And because I want to agree with it or not, it matters. It matters. And only really quarterback, I think offensive tackle, I kind of used it a little bit, and corner or wide receiver, I used a little bit too, just because I think you really need wide receivers.
Premium positions in general.
Yeah. I think some of those premium wide receiver or premium positions, I kind of used it a little bit. But honestly, I tried to make it based on the tape. I tried to make it on talent and tape over what the majority of it, 75% of it is on that. But then positional rankings, like if I took out that Shedeur wasn't a quarterback, he's probably around 30.
Jeff, to answer your question, so I do the OBR weekly mock draft weigh-in where I look at all the national guys and what they have mocked. And I shit you not, a CBS guy had a trade for Myles Garrett in his mock, and he gave us pick 22 and gave us a quarterback.
No.
Ain't no way, no.
No, never again.
I did not have like. Yeah, that's
23's fine. 21's fine. Not 22.
All right, for this back half, let's do 15 at a time. Two fill swoops here.
Well, we've only got 20 left.
Oh, do we? Look at me doing math. All right, let's let them rip.
Let's rip them. All right, I think I can get them all.
You didn't even hit the top thing. Look at you.
Look at this. Boom.
Perfect.
I got you there. All right, Captain Jack Sawyer, the edge rusher from Ohio State, checks in at 31. Bull Rush McIntyre there.
Bull Rush McIntyre.
There it is.
You see where someone did that on Wikipedia?
I did see that. It's NFL Stock Exchange reference, if nobody knows. TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle from South Carolina. Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State at 33. Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame at 34. Dylan Sampson, the running back from Tennessee at 35. Jahad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama at 36. 37, Matthew Golden. And we'll have a profile on him on the OBR next week. Wide receiver from Texas. Donovan Jackson, the guard from Ohio State at 38. 39, Nick Scorton, the edge rusher from Texas A&M. 20 at 40, Nick Emmanwori, the safety from South Carolina. Travion Henderson, the running back from Ohio State at 41. 42, Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State. 43, I am very low on this guy. I know a lot of people are very high on him, but Michael Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia. Derek Harmon, 44, the defensive tackle from Oregon. Benjamin Morrison at 45, the corner from Notre Dame. 46 is Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end from Bowling Green. Elick Iomanner at number 47, the wide receiver out of Stanford. Wyatt Milam, the offensive lineman from West Virginia at 48. Marcus Bowe, the offensive lineman from Purdue at 49. And Savon Ravel, the cornerback from East Carolina at number 50.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the two players here carrying injury designations, and we'll start with him. Reveal here. If they get good medicals back on this guy and teams are confident, he brings something physically that I don't know if any other corner in this draft does.
He is also 24.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's a lot of older prospects. If you look at just up and down this board,
go watch me and Sam last night on OBR mock draft duel. Like, we were just like, I'm sorry. I know this guy's older, but he's a good football player, and everybody else around him is either not as good as him at a position I don't care about or just as old.
Well, for perspective, in this draft, I think there's 7 players that'll be 20 on draft night.
Yeah.
That number is usually higher.
Yeah.
It's just where we're at now with the COVID year. We're still on the back end of that. NIL are keeping guys in longer. You're just getting prospects that have been around longer now.
So before Ravel tore his ACL, I believe it's what they said it was, a torn ACL. Mm-hmm. He played, I think, 3 games. So one thing about, I'm going to pull this up just so I know for sure, but one thing about him that I would say is that I believe it was September when he tore it. So that is somewhat good news. 3,
yeah.
Yes. He played
as good as it can be if you're going to tear an ACL is to do it as early as possible to give yourself the full recovery time.
You're talking about a 6'3", 200-pound guy. There were people like, how there's always a guy that's going to come out of nowhere. It's going to be a small school guy, or he's just a guy we haven't heard of that's going to come out of nowhere and really blow the doors off the beginning of the college football season. That was Ravel. He had 3 really good games, and PFF was talking about him. Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers talking about him as a top 15 guy at the start of the season. So that's one thing I will say about him is there was a lot of buzz. There was a lot of talent. You've got the medicals have got to check out, but he's got a lot of fans in the
NFL. One of the comps I heard was Antonio Cromartie.
Yes. Yeah.
He's
that physically gifted. You don't see guys with that length, size, and athleticism all that often.
Well, another guy at the same position, Benjamin Morrison, who's had hip surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a man corner. This is someone who is built to play that style of defense. This is a huge week for him. The medicals, man. Mm-hmm. And there's rumor that this was his 2nd hip surgery.
Right.
Which will be massive cause for concern to be that young and have multiple hip surgeries.
Well, the one guy that had that kind of concern before, and I tried to bring it up, that was Caleb Fairley. The corner that ends up going
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, from Virginia Tech. He ends up going ahead of the Browns, and the Browns took Greg Newsome. It was like, dude's insanely talented, but he had 3 knee surgeries. Like in college, or no, he had a back. Was it back and knee? It was something like that. But he'd had 3 surgeries, and he was 21 or 22. And it was like, man, that's a lot. And then he's just not been able to stay healthy in the NFL. And that's why Benjamin Morrison's where he's at, because I think he's a top 20 player, talent-wise. But it's multiple. It's one thing you had a hip issue, but now it's oh wait, you had 2 potential hip surgeries. I don't know about that, man. But of course, NFL teams will find out this week, a little, or they may already know. But yeah, man, that's yeah.
All right, I'm about to piss some people off.
Okay.
How much is it going to suck when Jack Sawyer goes to Pittsburgh?
Really bad, because he's man, it's yeah. It's every year I feel it in my bones. There's a prospect that I love, or an Ohio State player that I love, that's going to end up there. Travis, what was the defensive tackle from UConn?
Travis Jones.
He ends up in Baltimore. I was a big Rashad Bateman fan. He ends up in Baltimore. Keanu Benton ends up in Nick Herbig was one. Shazier, Cam Hayward, those both being Ohio State guys. It ends up, my God, does he scream Pittsburgh Steelers?
I think the best case scenario would be if he goes to the Chargers.
Yeah.
But he's going to go to Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Chargers. You maybe see a world where he ends up in Philadelphia, because why not?
I'd be okay with that, because I don't hate Philly on the level that I hate those other players.
I just feel like he's going to go to one of those teams.
Yeah.
Okay, you have Donovan Jackson, 38th overall. Mm-hmm. And while I agree his best position's probably guard, he's a guy that if I draft, I'm giving him a crack at tackle first.
He should definitely be there for like mini camp and the beginning of training camp. You should just see.
Show me. If you can't play it, I'll put you inside and we won't think about it for 10 years.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that I would want to see if he can do it.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the thing with Joel Bitonio, coming out, and it was like, and he may end up being that person, like where he ends up just being your left guard for forever, and then you're like, oh, Donovan, we need you to play tackle again, and then they're like, oh, okay. He bounces out there, plays like 3 or 4 games. But yeah, man, like I'm with you on the whole philosophy of let him fail outside in, because that's how I feel about Will Campbell. Is like I think you should give Will Campbell a crack at lot.
And it never works the other way. You don't graduate out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is funny because that's what happened to Donovan Jackson in college, but that was just solely based on injuries. They just lost 1 million left tackles. And so they were like, what the fuck are we supposed to do here? They lose 1 million left tackles. They bust him out there. But yeah, man, like I would definitely get him a look early, but if he looks a little uncomfortable, you just kick him back inside. Just work with it.
I know I've been missing for a long time. Sorry about that, food poisoning life. But I see Harold Fannin right there. And can I just be greedy and get Harold Fannin on day 2? Is that a realistic option?
He may fall farther than that just solely based on he's going to be a little bit undersized and he's going to a smaller school. I think he's the 46th talent, but that doesn't always translate to the 46th pick.
Okay. Interesting.
He's a player that to me, the plan is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of a guy without a home right now because you can't say he's going to do this one thing, but I think he can do multiple things. Mm-hmm. So if you're a creative play caller, having a guy like that as a joker offensive position who could line up at running back sometimes, you could motion him out to H-back, slot, big slot, sneak him in and let him run some inline every now and again. He gives you a lot.
And if he gets just like a little bit more power, a little bit more size, because I think he's a very willing blocker.
And he's 20. He's one of the 7 guys that'll be 20 on draft night.
And you're looking at it
very special.
What was his? There's like, I know he played it, in the MAC, but I just want you to look at some of these numbers for him that are just stupid. So PFF gave him a 96.4 receiving grade. 96.4 receiving grade. He had as a tight end, he had 3.77 yards per route run. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
He had 117 receptions for 1,555 yards.
Jacob, does that lead all NCAA football regardless of positions?
Yeah.
Oh.
He had 34 forced missed tackles. That was first among tight ends this year. He had 9 deep catches for 333 yards, which was third amongst all tight ends this year. He had 7.5 yards per reception after the yards after the catch per reception. Depth of target was 7.5. That wasn't crazy. His drop rate was 33.3%. His contested catch rate was a little over 50%.
I'm just saying, if you were looking for a pairing that makes sense with him in the NFL, I can't think of somebody that makes more sense than David Njoku. That is, especially if you are, reverting philosophies, you could probably play a lot more 2 tight ends out there. That it just makes a ton of sense to me. In the scenario that they trade down and get another day 2 pick, this is an ideal draft pick for me.
I think what's interesting with him is like he's listed at 230. We'll see what he measures in that. If he can get to like 240, 242, okay.
and being 20, it's like you can add weight to that frame. You absolutely can.
I don't think he's going to be an elite tester, which will push him down the boards a little bit. Mm-hmm. And even though I agree, talent-wise, I think he's got to be considered the 3rd or 4th tight end at worst, right? Talent-wise. But I expect 2 other tight ends, not named Warren or Loveland, to go in front of him.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I think Mason Taylor and Elijah Arroyo probably both go in front of him.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's really, when I was putting this together, I was obviously using my positional rankings, which were updated after the Senior Bowl. They'll get updated and republished maybe next week or the week after, and then I'll push this big board out to a top 100 in early March, somewhere around middle of March probably. We'll get a top 100. Like I put Travion Henderson there at 41, and I put Dylan Sampson up there at 35, but I realistically see them as probably third or fourth round picks just because of positional value and things of that nature. And like you're going to look at, you talked about scheme fits with corners and things like that, where it's like, yeah, like or injuries where it's like Benjamin Morrison is the 45th best player, but is he going to go in the top 45 because of the injury history? He might drop because of it. And so
like comfortable teams are.
And Wyatt Milam, I've got him at 48, and I've seen him topple into the 70s because people are like, I don't know if he's a guard or a tackle. I don't know. And I'm like, well, I think he's a tackle, but I think he's a really good offensive lineman. So I got him in my top 50, but he's probably not going to go in the top 50. So like, I'm with you on that, where it's like, I think he's the most talented guy, but there's reasons to like a fit, or maybe you're a team that doesn't have time to develop a Harold Fannin, but you like Mason Taylor's tools a little bit better. Maybe you think Mason Taylor's closer. Maybe you think Arroyo's closer. I mean, he's got the injury history, but maybe you think those guys are closer to being finished products and ready to contribute more than Harold Fannin. So even though you might have him as a more talented player, you take him over that. So like you're going to see that stuff happen a ton.
It depends on what you're looking for. You're looking for a guy who's going to give you more inline stuff. Mason Taylor would be your guy. Just based on his size profile.
And you talk about Jack Sawyer as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and it feels inevitable. Jack Sawyer's a big defensive end. If you're looking for, like, I have him up higher than Nick Scorton, but Nick Scorton probably goes higher if he tests well this week because he's more athletic, more of a pass rusher than a run defender, where I think Sawyer's more of a run defender than a pass rusher, because he's just more of a power profile guy, doesn't quite have that twitch and bend. If you like the twitch and bend, you're not going to take Jack Sawyer first. You're going to take Nick Scorton before that. Like, it's just, yeah, what are you looking for?
Okay, is Jihad Campbell going to be a Detroit Lion?
Yeah, probably. Unless it's Jack Sawyer. I think Jack Sawyer could be a Detroit Lion.
You're right.
Like he could be like. Does it feel like if one of those guys is on the board when Detroit picks, do I think that's the pick? Yeah, probably. It probably is. Yeah.
I just looked. It just occurred to me that you've got Dylan Sampson ahead of Travion Henderson. That's interesting.
It's just a little bit more. I think he's got more top speed.
Okay. Wow.
And I fully expect Sampson to run in the 4.3s.
Yeah, I think he's got, and like Travion has speed, but like Sampson, I think is going to do that. And I think I put him up there because I just value that big play, just a little bit more big play potential in there. Speed kills, I know he's 20 pounds lighter. I get it. I get Dylan Sampson smaller, but I just see more explosive potential there. And so I have him up there, but like, does Travion a better blocker? Yeah.
So when I got to talk to Daniel Jeremiah and I was asking about wide zone running backs, that's where he went. Caleb Johnson was the first guy he talked about, and then Dylan Sampson, Amarian Hampton, Trayvon Henderson, and Quentin Judkins. Those are the five that he highlighted.
Yeah.
I would absolutely drool over the Browns having any of them.
My top 10, maybe even my top 15 running backs, I'm fine with any of them.
So there were 17 running backs taken in 2017. Do you think that record gets broken this year?
There was how many?
17 in 2017.
Yeah, I think that's broken. I think I've heard people tell me 28 to 30 draftable grades. I haven't pushed my big board out that far, but I know that I have 25 draftable running backs.
I'm going to say something that really sucks, but I feel is true. If you lose Nick Chubb, the best way to soften that blow is to draft one of these dynamic running backs, let them light the world on fire, and just win fans over. That's the best path forward if you lose a guy like Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Then there are a lot of options. I'll tell you what, Jacob. I have, we all know my position about drafting a quarterback at 2, but it's like the more you go through these prospects, the more it's like, man, if they could just get one more pick in this round, that would be something. So I don't know.
Maybe. I think picks like 20 through 80 are a gold mine. I think 20 through 80 is a gold mine. Don't get me wrong. Travis Hunter's really special. Abdul Carter's special. Like there's people up there. But once you start to get in those mid-tier, that's kind of second tier where you start to get into the second round grades. Like looking at these guys, if you look at my 20 through 50, so if you start at or even at 19, Josh Connerly all the way down to Savon Ravel, is there that much of a difference in talent level? No. That's like when I'm saying Dylan Sampson's 35 and Travion Henderson's 41. Are they separated by a couple of points? Yeah, that's it. It's not like I've got one of them a first round grade, a top 15 grade, and the other one a top 30 grade. No, I don't. I think that cluster is very close. And I think it'll look different. My top 100 will look different. The top 50 of that 100 will look different.
So this has nothing to do with, this is helmet scouting. What school is the most represented in your top 50?
I think it's Ohio State.
How many you got? 3 or 4?
I got more than that. So you've got
top 50?
Yeah. So you got 1 here, 2. There's 3 right there. 4 and 5 right there. Yeah. So 5. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Wow. Yeah. I got 6 Ohio State in the top 50.
It's a beautiful thing.
And none of those guys were their best players on this year's national championship team.
It's just silly.
On either side of the ball.
Yeah.
And JTT's not on this list. He's just outside. Will Howard's not on this list. They're just, both of those guys are outside the top 50, but inside the top 100.
Okay.
And Nathan Ransom.
Who would be your next quarterback that's not on this list?
It's Jalen Milroe because the ceiling's just still too high. I will stick with, I know people want to argue with me about the Jalen Milroe.
I mean, here scouts are still high on him.
Yeah. It's just, there is not a higher ceiling at the quarterback position than Jalen Milroe, because if he could get an intermediate, because here's the thing, I answered this question in the forum on the OBR, on one of the Ask the Insiders, where I was like, it's not like you haven't seen him pick apart a defense in the short and intermediate team. I have seen it. He has done it. It's that he can't do it consistently. He cannot do it consistently. But I have seen him pick apart defenses. It's not like with Anthony Richardson, you hadn't seen it at all. It was pure conjecture. It was pure projection. With Milroe. Yeah, with Milroe, he's got the biggest arm, I think, just in pure strength. He throws a great deep ball. It's beautiful. And there's not a better runner at quarterback in this class. If he can be more consistent, he still had an adjusted completion percentage of over 70% this year. If he can just be more consistent on the easy stuff, that's the thing. He does the really special hard stuff well, runs, throws the deep ball. He just needs to be more accurate on easy things, the short and intermediate. And I think that it's the mechanical thing. There's some flaws there. He needs coached up. But if you believe in yourself and your ability to coach, and he runs like Forrest Gump. If you believe in your ability to coach and develop, that ball of clay there's a lot to work with. So he's 3, yeah.
I think Milroe will break the record for the fastest 40 by a quarterback.
He's got a shot. I mean,
I think Tez Johnson might threaten the 40 overall.
Yeah. So if you look it up, like I like to do this just because sometimes they have already ran 40s. So if you just like go Jalen Milroe 40 time, it'll project what like you'll get projections. The estimate is so they say the estimate is based on his speed during a touchdown run against LSU in 2024 November. They estimate he can hit 4.3.
Yep.
So that's what people are estimated going into the combine.
He's 220 some pounds.
Yeah. He's thick. Yeah. He's a big boy.
I think we did it. I think we did the damn thing tonight, boys.
I feel I know I'm going to go back and watch her own show so I can catch up on the top 50 that I missed, because I learned a lot listening. And Jacob, I'll tell you what, you can really see you've put so much work into it, and just you're knowledgeable on all these guys that I haven't even begun to fully know about, which I know, Casey, you're well on your way as well. So damn, that's about as comprehensive as you could ask for it to be.
I'm trying to get on some of the other guys' levels this year, and I do feel legit that for the first time, I think, actually putting like big boards out and that kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I actually fucking did the thing. And like,
well, that's the thing too, is it's easy to talk prospects, but to actually do the work, the work and stand on your own evaluations. I think that is the most important thing. You could be right, you could be wrong, but you're you. Mm-hmm. And that's the most important thing in this whole game.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Guys, we so appreciate all of you being here. We're going to keep being live on YouTube. We kind of experimented. We had so much fun. This has been so much fun, and we have so many fun things to look forward to. So I think I speak for the rest of the show, say we are not mad at the Browns here. We are hopeful. We're optimistic. We are excited about what can change this. So with that being said, this has been so aptly named by Casey, Jacob's Nifty 50, the top 50 of his big board. Looking forward to 100 episode of the Barking Browns show. Nick, he's Jacob, he's Casey. Go Browns. I got to end the stream, huh? I should probably.